Good morning.
When you turn this.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service at the
Yeah.
Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. My name is Don West Jr. I am honored and pleased to be your worship associate this morning. Our gathering music this morning was from Brad Paisley, and the title was Welcome to the Future. And if you haven't figured out what's going on, today is the 75th anniversary celebration of our fellowship, of our spiritual community gathering together. Since 1948, here in Laguna Beach, individuals have been coming together in the same way we are this morning. And today we're marking that occurrence with our 75th Platinum Jubilee. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We sit on the unceded land of the Ahashiman and the Tonga tribes, and we show respect and honor to the First Nations. This is something that's probably a little different than 75 years ago when we first started gathering, but here today on the land we join together in worship, again, is the ancestral territory of the Ahashiman and the Tonga tribes, and we offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care and of their teachings for each of us, and we look to become more morally in line and attuned with the peoples of the First Nations as we move forward into the future. So again, thank you to the First Nations as we celebrate our 75 years here on this land and in this space. Everywhere there's a chalice, everywhere there is a service held in the Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The chalice is the only symbol that we have in our faith. And today, as we light the chalice, I want to call on and honor all of the ancestors who are no longer with us, who have been a part of this community, a part of the space. So I call on them, I bring them forward and ask them to join us in this space from the ancestral plane, and thank them for all of the work, commitment, and vision that they had in bringing us to this place and allowing this light to continue to shine. At the UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation with a commitment to work together to actively dismantle systemic racism and oppression in all of its forms. Unitarian Universalists subscribe to no single religious creed, but have gathered a set of principles that guide us as we build a religious community together. The 7 principles that Unitarian Universalist congregations affirm and promote are on the screen and on the back of the order of service available. So if you haven't picked up an order of service, there's one on the table back there. And again, this is the 75th Platinum Jubilee, and I looked it up. They said this could also be the 75th Diamond Jubilee, but it was very confusing because they said the Diamond Jubilee could be also for the 60th year or the 70th year. So I didn't want to go with that confusion. So I went with Platinum. So this is the Platinum Jubilee. Whoever you are, whoever you love, no matter your age or gender, your ancestral or ethnic background, whatever sincere questions that you bring with you today, whatever has brought you here this morning, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and ethical beings, a community which supports each of us as we work to make a difference in our world. Throughout the service, as you've already seen Rachel do, if you would like, and you have something that's in your heart, either a joy or a sorrow, I invite you to come forward and light a candle in recognition of that you're carrying with you today. It's such a joy for us to have guests on Sunday mornings. I can't quite see what's going on Zoom, but if there's anyone on Zoom that's joined us for the first or second time, I'm getting the indication that there's not. Is there anyone in the building here that's joined us for the first or second time and like to say hello? Welcome, welcome. Would you like to give us your name, tell us where you're from, how you got to us this morning? Well, welcome, Chris. I'm going to repeat that for the people on Zoom, if that's okay. This is Chris. He was walking by. He's a Laguna resident. He was walking by a couple of months ago, curious about what we were and what happens here, looked us up, and he's here to find out more. And what a day you chose to come in today, Chris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, welcome to everyone else. And I'd like to take a few minutes for us to go around and greet one another, say hello. Hello, Mr. Mike. And while we do that and say hello to everyone, good morning, Cindy. The lovely Carole is going to play a piece of music for us. And go for it, Rachel. Go around and say hello and touch everybody this morning. Hello.
Music was so good for a while now. With the microphone.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us this morning. If you have a few minutes, I hope that you'll stay. Oh, Jim, welcome. Good to see you, sir. If you have a few minutes, we invite you to stay after for coffee and conversation. And very quickly, in the form of a couple of announcements that were brought to my attention for upcoming things. First and most important is food. Next week, we're going to be doing a potluck after the service. So if you need any information, coordinate with Miss Noreen here in the back. And there's a sign-up list. She's holding it up if you can't see it on Zoom. So food next week for service. That's the Christmas Eve service. We're looking for some holiday-themed foods and things like that. The second announcement is, if you can see the tree here, everybody can. Our tree is decorated with socks. One of the things we're doing this holiday season is we're collecting socks and toiletries for the unhoused in the community. So we're going to be doing that until when? Is next weekend the last weekend? So next weekend is your final deadline to get in your socks. We have a beautiful tree. If you haven't seen it, the people on Zoom, it's filling up. There's socks hanging on the tree. Wonderful stuff. Okay, on the slide that Pam is going to put up for you momentarily is going to be information about upcoming services in Laguna and around and about Laguna, because we have other things here. On Christmas Eve next week, again, 12:24, we have our morning service here at the church. And following that, we're going to taking it from the top. On the 24th, we're going to have a special festive gathering. on Christmas Eve morning. It's a special service that's being curated, and there will be food. There's a sign-up sheet in the back. Also, at 5:30, different location, Tapestry. 5:30 is a candlelight service on Christmas Eve. And then I believe this information is correct. On 12/31, for our service, we'll have Douglas Miller, who is a photographer and is putting together a special and excellent service for us. And that will put us into 2024, which will be our 76th year, and more information is to come on that. Are there any other announcements from the general body, from our board, that I've missed or have not already said? Anyone? Anyone? Going once? We also know there's always more opportunities to work together and more to be done. So if you're looking for a way to become more involved, reach out to any one of your board members, myself, Oakley, and we'll find a way to make sure we put you to work. I also just want to say, our gathering music was Welcome to the Future. And in so many ways, literally, we're living the future here in the 75th year of this community. And it's very important because this is a community, it's about community. And this is a little bit off script, but I'm gonna share it with you guys really quickly anyway. So in my house, they kind of call me the Grinch. And I'm trying to solve my Grinchness by watching a lot of Christmas movies and a lot of Christmas movies. And last night, as I was putting the slides and things together for today, I was watching Christmas with the Cranks. And it brought a tear to my eye, and it brought a tear to my eye because it made me think about you guys. Because if you haven't seen Christmas with the Cranks, the storyline is they cancel Christmas, they're not gonna have Christmas, but their daughter is coming home and she's expecting Christmas, so they have to have Christmas. And the only way that they can do it is with the community. And the community comes together and helps them to pull together their Christmas. And it's a wonderful little tale of community, and that's what we have here. So Welcome to the Future was our gathering music. And to give you a little bit of understanding of what we have going on here, 1948 is when we started. And Dara got me so I would have all of this correct. In 2008, when we had our 60th anniversary, I don't know who to give the credit to, but some of our members, someone in our community, put these boards together. They went and got the big science project boards, and they grabbed pieces of history and things all throughout and put that together. And all of this information was down in our basement, and it got a little damp at the bottom and something got leaned against it, but it's still here, and they put all of this together. And then there's one very interesting thing that we'll get into later. When we had our 40th anniversary in 1988, two members, Joyce Dusenberry and John Faulkner, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with their names, Joyce Dusenberry and John Faulkner, they wrote this 2-page historical essay that tells all of the history of everything that happened within this community from 1948 to 1988. So we'll get more into that. But that's what's going on with all these boards here in the history, the community, Welcome to the Future. So in so many ways, and just a quick vignette, it was about 6 or 8 people that originally started gathering. And they had a dream, and they had a vision. And in a very, very real and tangible way, we are standing, living, and experiencing the future of their dream and their vision today as we celebrate the 75th gathering of the community and all of the years. And one of the cool things that I'm going to show you is a picture of the church and a family that's here at the church from Jim Pemberton's wedding way back in the 70s. Just like, wow, there's so much history here. But okay. My screen has gone off, so I really don't know where we're at. Censoring thought, here we go, censoring thought. Our censoring thought today is actually a retread, a repeat. It comes from Dr. John Hendrick Clark, and I'll read it for us. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells a people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child. And so what we have here is our history, and Dr. Clark says that the relationship to this is like we're the children and this is our mother. And if you didn't know, this was just in the basement, and I happened upon it and found it one day. And I don't know if anybody else here knew it was in the basement, but in some ways, the fact that we have it on the stage here today is almost a magical, like, Christmas event. Because if you don't know, I usually come in on Sunday mornings. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I usually come in on Sunday mornings when I'm here in person for the service. And I leave on Sunday afternoons. And there would have been no way for me to come in and gather all of these things together and have them ready. But this particular weekend, it just so happened that I got here on Thursday. Paul helped me get in the building. Thank you so much, Paul. I know it takes so many people to make this place run and operate on a weekly basis. So we have to acknowledge and thank everyone who puts time, energy, talent into making us run. You have a piece of paper in your hand. I don't know how that piece of paper got printed, but it was magic. It wasn't magic. Somebody did it. Thank you, Pam. So thank everyone throughout the community who works. When you give a donation, whether it be a check, whether it be through PayPal, somebody has to handle that and process that. So thank you to all of the people that do all of the different things to make sure that we keep moving forward. And I keep going off script and getting all into things that, oh, we just did the centering thought. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry. Centering thought. And so now, the lovely Carole is going to lead us in our opening hymn. And our opening hymn is going to be number 123. I chose this song in part as an ode to our last minister who worked here with us, the Reverend Lee Marie Sanchez. She always had an affinity for this song and liked to share it with us when she did a service. So we're gonna sing number 123, Spirit of Life, and we're gonna sing it in both English and Spanish. Take it away, Carole.
People would like to.
Yeah. Hated that the music's gone.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente d'amor, ven a mí. Il corazón contemplate tu compasión. So love alive, sublime amor, Salvador, la justicia de la vida. Arrógame, líbrame, fuente d'amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Please remain standing if you will. And if it feels comfortable, we're going to read the words of our unison affirmation and remind ourselves why we gather together as a community. The words will be on your screen. If you're on Zoom, I invite you to unmute yourselves and join in the cacophony of the community as we read these words together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you all for joining us today. You may be seated, and for taking a part in helping us make a difference. We've come to the part in our service now where we, as a community, share the joys and the sorrows since the last time we've come together. It's a time when we pause the recording, and we're going to go to the people on Zoom and invite them. It is much a joy to receive as it is to give. And in this self-governing, self-sustaining community, we take it as a responsibility to do both well. So on the slide that is about to come up is some information about how you can give electronically through PayPal or Tithely, also an address that you can send a check if you're out in the internet worlds. In the building here, Carole is going to play us a wonderful number, and Paul is going to pass the basket. I invite you to give, and you can see the socks, but it's through your donations that we carry on all of the works of our church here in the community and all that we do. So Carole, take it away. Paul will pass the basket.
I don't know what's happened again. Oh, it was doing well.
Tradition has been, as long as I've been around, which is only 5 years, but not 75. I invite you to stand, connect, gather hands, and let's sing a song of gratitude. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share,
and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Oh my goodness!
Did it wrong.
Oh.
as we get
Can't hear. Can't hear.
Yeah. We can't hear anything.
That is your system.
Hmm?
That's why that musician was trying to complain she cannot hear. That's it in your system. We have no control over that.
No.
I got.
There's something wrong with your system there. With your
Yeah, that's
system.
for sure.
Ah,
We can't hear.
I cannot hear either. There's no sound.
I know. I'm saying that to them.
I don't know if they can hear you.
I know, but I'm. Can't hear. Oh boy, that's terrible. Missing everything. Ah. Can't hear. Can't hear. We can't hear. Can't hear.
Can you guys hear me on Zoom now?
There you go.
Yes. Yes.
Our 75th Jubilee celebration. Bear with us just 1 second because we have some amazing slides to celebrate this 75th Jubilee celebration. It was apparently August of 1948 when the first, I gotta tell myself, give me 1 second, stand still, don't move. Okay. Hopefully I will remember. It was August of 1948 when the first group gathered, and I was very curious, and I hope this translates for everybody. We're gonna do a little something different so I can. So in 1782, in Boston, Massachusetts, at King's Chapel, the first Unitarian congregation came into being. 1825 is when an association of Unitarians formed in the United States of America. Then in 1948, where we've already talked about multiple times, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship organized as the Unitarian Society of Laguna Beach. And there's a note somewhere in these archives here that says that we were the second fellowship established in the United States as a Unitarian fellowship, which is a different structure. It's a lay-led structure, different a little bit from a church. Then in 1961, as we discussed this summer, the UUA was formed by the consolidation of the Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America. Then in 1973, after meeting in all kinds of places, which we're going to talk about a little bit more and find out more about where we met, 1973, we started meeting in this building. And in 73, and until I believe 81, we met in the building with the church that we bought the building from while their new building was being built. And then in the present here in 2023, we've had a wonderful year this year. We just finished a major building improvement campaign. We were the recipients of a UU Spirit grant. And in the middle of the year, in the summer, we held a congregational visioning our future meeting, which is very interesting because one of the things that they did 40 years ago was the exact same thing, was they had a congregational meeting about the future. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. The UUFLB mission statement. At UUFLB, we strive to be a dynamic and growing fellowship, diverse in age, ethnicity, and perspective, to provide for the spiritual, intellectual, and social needs of the congregation, and to contribute to the needs of the community and the world in accordance with the Unitarian Universalist principles. Are we ready to go there?
Yeah.
Awesome. One, two, three. Oh, there we go. One, two, three. All right. We're back in business. So our 7 principles are here on the screen, and then many churches around the country, including our own, have begun the process of adopting an 8th principle. And the primary driver within the 8th principle is recognizing and seeking to do something about systemic racism. So at the top of the slide, we are a welcoming congregation committed to ending systemic racism with membership open to all. And so history is a clock, and history is something that it tells the people where they have been and what they have been. So that's important. And I thought we should just allow this centering thought to echo in our mind one more time. And not only that, I'm going to allow it to echo in the words of Dr. John Henrik Clarke himself. So Pam is going to play that for us, and let's hear him remind us about the importance of history.
History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells of people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.
Now I find it really interesting that in 1948, the Beachcomber thought it was a very newsworthy event that several people gathered together in a home to form a new religious community. And so they actually wrote an article. Laguna has a reputation as a church-going town and welcomes a brand new organization, the Unitarian Society. William Ottaway was elected chairman, and members of the executive board are Mrs. Thelma Climack, Dorothy Grabber, Mrs. May Bear, Mr. Robert Peters, and Mrs. R.E. Faxon. The society will meet first and third Mondays beginning in October, and Monday night will be addressed by a Unitarian minister from Los Angeles, where there is a flourishing membership. Dr. Freischman says, Unitarianism is the movement of men and women who cherish free thought in religion and feel an ethical responsibility in dealing with the problems of personality and culture. And then it tells the contact information for the society's secretary. So that was, again, in the Beachcomber. It won't move. There we go. That was in the Beachcomber in 1948. And so 40 years later, two of our members, as I pointed out earlier, they wrote this marvelous history. And going with the sentiments of Dr. Clark, I thought it was important for us to have a better understanding and kind of put into the record of our own memories what our history has been. And I've lost the clicker one more time. There we go. So this was written in 1988. The fellowship was chartered in 1948, which makes this the 40th anniversary of our founding. It also makes ours the second oldest fellowship in the United States. The late Reverend Stephen Freischman of Los Angeles helped the new fellowship get started and remained a staunch friend over the years. The old studio, now a restaurant at Diamond Street and Coast Highway, was our first meeting place. Among the founders were Claude and Harrietta Hanna, Edna Black, Mr. and Mrs. Tracy Webb, and Harriet and Leslie Blades. Early recruits include Letitia Wainwright, Carl Hine, Joyce Dusenberry, Dr. Percy Baldwin, Irma Wright, Ethel Ferguson, Joyce and Howard Oliver, Olivia and Rob Peters, Winifred Balk, Oscar Miller, Winifred Palmer, and Gwen Altimus. There were a couple Winifreds in Laguna at the time. In the early years, we had our services in the old variety of meeting places that most fledgling fellowships use. Dance studios, the women's club, a high school classroom, and the Laguna Art Museum. About 1969, the group had grown sufficiently to rent a converted house at 1130 North Coast Highway. At this location, we drew standing room audiences and conducted a very successful religious education program involving elementary, junior, and senior high school students. Active in this program were Virginia Rice, Gwen Altimus, Peggy Pine, Marge and Fred Prattley, Jan and Norm Badcock, Judy and Paul Hance, Irma Wright, John Faulkner, and many others. This one is very important. A bequest in Oscar Miller's will began the building fund for a permanent home for our fellowship. This sparked the decision to purchase a large piece of property on Temple Hills Drive.
Wow.
This purchase necessitated moving the Sunday meetings to private homes to conserve funds. Alan Christensen was chairman during this period, which saw many successful and imaginative fundraising events directed towards the building program. In a very unusual fundraiser, the Los Angeles County Art Museum paid the fellowship to construct 6 sets of extremely precise, huge optical mirrors. These were for an art collaboration between New York artist Bob Whitman and member John Faulkner for exhibit in the United States Pavilion of Japan's Expo 1970. Adults, young and old, and small children supervised by George Quinn sawed, nailed, sanded, and glued the 7-foot by 7-foot mirror structures at the present bicycle shop on Thalia Street. This memorable project generated enormous enthusiasm and attracted national and even international attention to our fellowship. Meeting in private homes presented many difficulties, including continual transportation of folding chairs, also that members and even speakers sometimes could not find the meeting place. During this critical period, the newsletter became the vital binding force for the fellowship as it continues to be, which, as a side note that's not in the letter, that's how Reverend Chris Schreiner was able to find us because our digital newsletter continues to connect with people to this day. Janet Wing, Winfred Palmer, Reva Morton, and Jim Sweeney were very active in building up the newsletter, and they were later greatly helped by Chet and June Bain, who continue to serve this very important activity today. To provide more stable meeting locations, we temporarily returned to using dance studios, etc. This culminated in a basement storeroom at the Free Clinic and was the bottom in more ways than one. Inadequacy of this as a meeting place soon led to the momentous decision to buy 429 Cypress Drive from St. Paul's Lutheran Church. In April 1973, we moved in, sharing the building with the Lutherans for several months while their new church was being completed. Reverend Freichman conducted the historic opening ceremonies at our new home. During the 40-year history of the fellowship, the programs have reflected a strong concern with the participation in major social issues of local, national, and international importance. The programs, put together and conducted by a long line of valiant committee and fellowship chairpersons, have always been balanced and augmented by talks and sermons by Unitarian Universalist ministers drawn from the greater Los Angeles area and beyond. Reva Morton carried the responsibility for the program for a period of many years, and in recent years has been joined by Lou Red, Don Brigman, and Marge Miller. Membership in the fellowship has waxed and waned over the years, and there has been a perennial concern about growth. Earlier this year, the board had some of the members meet with Gene Wilkinson and Scotty Meek of the Pacific Southwest District of the UUA to discuss our goals for growth and some means for realizing them. Shortly after this, we engaged Chris Schreiner, Minister of Counseling for the Costa Mesa Church, to lead us in a day-long seminar at Ben Brown's Conference Center in South Laguna with the purpose of exploring growth in greater detail. This seminar, sound familiar, attended by most of our current members, led to the decision to find a suitable part-time minister to give us continuing professional guidance in expanding our membership and its programs. A committee headed by fellowship co-chairman Bill Taylor interviewed a number of candidates, and the board finally recommended Chris Schreiner. At a full congregational meeting, Chris was overwhelmingly elected as our part-time minister. Chris Schreiner was installed as the fellowship's first official minister on December 6, 1987, to a standing room assembly with the representatives of the UUA present to send us off on our new adventure. The future for the fellowship looks very bright. A new wave of enthusiasm is building since the growth seminar among old and new members alike. It is an exciting time. Our mortgage on the building is paid, and we will celebrate this event on January 16th, 1988. A religious education program is high on our list of priorities, and people are already volunteering to help start this very important program. There is much work to be done, and many people will be needed to help the fellowship continue to be a community of explorers, supporting each other and reaching out to the world at large. We welcome all who wish to join us in this exploration, and we salute all who have contributed to building our fellowship. And that was written by Joyce Dusenberry and John Faulkner. And that's all, folks. No. So here's the picture I told you guys about earlier. This is from March 1976.
Wow.
March 1976. This is the nuptials of Jim Pemberton and Barbara Williams Pemberton. And I don't know who anyone in the picture is, but one of the cool things about our fellowship is we have a couple of families that are multi-generational. And because we're having this, one of the people that were mentioned by Chris Schreiner when he wrote in was her mom. He used a quote from her today in his sermon as part of his gathering thought and centering thought. And I asked Cindy if she would just share a couple of thoughts and recollections on behalf of her mother and the family about our 70
hear most of what she's
and
saying.
how we got here and that we're here.
We've been part of the fellowship for 2/3 of its history. It'll be 50 years next year because we started going in 1974. And it took me until 2018 to officially become a member. But my children have fond memories of the fellowship and the religious education. And until they moved up to Alaska, I would brought my granddaughter here and sometimes my grandsons.
Can't hear any of that.
With her service here when she died, so last year or the year before. And it's been the only fellowship I've ever, or church or anything that I've ever actually considered home.
Thank you so much. And so one other thing.
Yeah, my mom was kind of the institutional memory of this place. And she, and I know where I get it from now, had a tendency to stash things wherever they would fit. So we're still in the process of getting everything together. And so sometime, hopefully in the next couple months, I'll be able to get all of the paperwork that she brought home and stuck God knows where, so that I can share it with the fellowship, put it in their archives or whatever.
And so one of the first boards that I sat on the fellowship, I was on the board with Barbara, and Barbara was the institutional memory. She knew almost everything that had happened for the past 50 years, and she was a stickler for following the rules of procedure and operating exactly as our bylaws dictated. Can we stop sharing the screen for just 1 second? Because I asked Rachel also, her mother, Reva Morton Diamond, was a big part of the congregation and was mentioned for her work with the newsletter. And I asked Rachel to speak on behalf of her family and Reva in memory and recollection on this day.
Oh, I unmuted this. Should I
Oh,
not
yeah, you
have
should be
done that?
unmuted so they can hear you on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
We're
Great.
double dutying.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, thank you for the walk down memory lane, Don. This is just amazing. These are names that I grew up with. John Faulkner, let's see, Gladys, who you mentioned, so many of them. And I was part of the Mirror Project at the bike shop at Thalia and on and on. But my mother was born in 1928. And when you think about it, as a, oh, let me hold that.
There you go.
Okay, that makes it much more comfortable. Okay, oh good, I got my thumb there too. Thanks, Annie. Now Brian's holding the iPad. So my mother was born in 1928. We're Jewish. And so that means that going through the horrors of the Holocaust when she was a young woman, and then coming out here, she was the only one in the family who came out here. And when we were brought up, it's like, how could there be a God? And look at all the horrors in the world. And so my mother searched for a religious community that would accept her beliefs and found the community here with the Unitarian Universalists. And it really meant a lot to us also growing up. I mean, you know, we all go through our stuff, but to be part of these projects, to be part of this community, to be able to have our individual beliefs and keep on growing. And I know Jim was here, probably Cindy too. We came in and laid the cork that you see up here in our sanctuary. We painted, too close or too far away, sorry. But this has been a long part of our life and amazing people that are part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I was about to open it up. I didn't ask anyone else to be prepared. Tim, would you like to say a few words and on our history and where we've come from and where we are?
Okay,
There we go.
well, when Barbara and I first came here, the fellowship was quite different. The Montessori had a school here, and out in the backyard where the parking lot is now was a big playground for the kids. They had a slide, the swings and all the whole thing. And we had the fellowship had the church, during the weekend, but the Montessori had it during the week.
Interesting.
And it's, I remember a few of the people that like the Sweeneys and Mortons. Jim Sweeney and Morton, about the second week I was here, they found out I worked at Montgomery Ward and appliance repair and air conditioning, furnace work. They said, come here with us. They took me down to the basement to show me where the furnace was. And he said, we want you now to take care of this furnace. So that was my inoculation to the fellowship.
Well, one of the first things Jim taught me when I came in the fellowship was he said, come down into this basement and let me show you where this furnace is and how to take care of this furnace. So there's two parts. There's the reflection and 72 hours and reading through it and looking where they were 40 years ago and where we are today, I saw some parallels and I saw some interesting correlations. But the thing that I thought was most important is that through all of the things that have occurred is that we're still here. And as it happens today, at least optically, we look stronger than we've looked in a long time. So that's just really cool because we have had a wonderful turnout. We've had a wonderful guest. And so the question is, what's next for our fellowship? We have to answer that question. And the only answer can come from within our hearts and things that truly mean something to us moving forward. So in 2024, we're going to have to answer what's next. I was thinking about just 12 months ago, I did the service the same weekend, and I had a very, very clear plan on where I was going and what I was doing, particularly as it related to this community. And one of the things in reflecting and getting ready for the service is I realized that life is always going to throw us curveballs. And one of the things that matters most is how do you handle the curveball? It's the thing that kind of, in baseball, you have to forgive my sports analogies, it might be boring to some. But in baseball, the curveball is one of the things that not only keeps somebody from being a major league player and making a living, but becoming a great player and making it into the things like the Hall of Fame. And so, again, we've been here 75 years, and through just the short trip down memory lane, we've seen that you guys have not looked at all of this into the depth and detail. So I'm going to point out this one element right here. It says notes from Chris. So the letter that we read was full of excitement and enthusiasm because Chris Schreiner had just become the first hired minister for the church. And this note, he says, I've just been called to be a full-time minister somewhere else, and I have to leave. And he says he knows the church is going to be okay, but he has to go on his way. And so the cool thing is I had no idea who Chris Schreiner was because I've only been around for 5 years. And he came out as a result of the newsletter. He sent word. He said he's speaking somewhere today, so maybe he can speak somewhere else in the next couple of weeks or months that might be this place. But the history, the relationship of us to the history, it's a history of resilience. There's been the COVID pandemic and just the recent history of this community. And we have yet to miss a service. And so they had to move chairs and they had speakers not show up because they didn't know where they were supposed to be. Those are not our challenges, but we have our own unique set of challenges. And I said this is important because there's Kirk Topic, was that the gentleman's name?
Yes.
And there's others, but I know Kirk Topic left a bequeath to the church of a small piece of an apartment building, and that bequest that he left to the church is part of what allows us to continue to operate today in this very moment. It's part of why we are financially sound in addition to our mortgage being paid. And then it goes back in the letter, and I've already forgotten the gentleman's name, but there was another bequest. Someone felt it was so important what they had done here in their life that they made sure that that work would continue. So we stand on the shoulders of giants. And so what's next is, who's going to be the next giant and the next person that's going to allow us to take another step forward, to take another leap? Who's going to include us in the future that they won't touch? Because the one thing that's certain is that everyone in 1948 is not here today. None of them are. And yet we are. And we're the vision, the welcome to the future from our opening song. And in theory, and in my hope, is that there will be an 80th, 100th, and so on and so forth. I won't bore you with all the numbers, but you get it. So thank you guys for joining me in a little bit of a trip down memory lane. I was sharing with Locally, one of the things that I did do was take pictures of all of this. So some of it's been damaged and a little wrinkled, but we've now preserved it digitally. And we're halfway, since we have pictures and video of it, to getting it to our website. So then it'll be in a way that it's always archived. So the 75th Jubilee, what's next is up to us. And one of the things that I realized is at some point, this space also went from being just a handful to standing room only, where they didn't have room for all the people that came. And the question is, how did that happen? And I promise you it didn't happen because nobody told anybody about what was going on here. So the number one thing you're going to have to do is, they said recruits in the letter. They said they recruited people. I don't know if you're going to be a recruit, good sir. Your name was Chris? But thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of our 75th celebration. You're our guest, so it makes it special because you're kind of watching our special moment. So thank you. Is there anyone else that might have something that they want to share? And I'm going to put her on the spot because our longest standing employee at the moment is our director of music, Miss Carole. And is there anything you want to say about your time with the fellowship? And we're going to do this so that the people on. Oh, well, she's going to go to the mic because you're up next. So get ready, lady. I was about to kick it to you anyway.
Seen, some wonderful people pass on. And I have to say that it's just a really loving community that I've found here. And also one that I could fit in because my previous upbringing was all Protestant and Methodist, and I never quite got all of that. Didn't make sense to me. And so when Candy Strock brought me in, she suggested that Bill Foster, and Jean and Jack liked me and saw to it that I got hired pretty much. And it's been like, I don't know, 13 years, 14 years or something like that. So I've seen a lot of people and met a lot of people here, and everybody's just really very wonderful and warm, and same mentality as me in a way, because I don't have to believe in certain things. So that works for me. And it's been a joy to be here.
Now, without further ado, our closing song, 1064. It is one of my favorites. Blue Boat Home, number 1064, led by our longest standing and most marvelous music director, Carole.
And one of our favorite songs. Please stand if you'd like.
That's my favorite song too. Wish I could hear it play today.
Oh, below me, I feel the ocean standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still, my troubled heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbored or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat. Oh. Sun, my sail, and moon, my brother, as I fly the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat. Oh. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great wind surging beyond, greeting infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor, no port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat. Oh.
You may be seated. Our chalice has already gone out when we weren't looking. It's on. Okay. We extinguish our chalice and we hold a special place in respect for all of those who are serving in our armed services, both here and abroad, all of those who worked a shift last night as a civil servant or a hospital worker, on behalf of all of those who help keep us safe. And most importantly, in this community, we hold space for all of those who make it possible for us just to operate and do what we do. As you go out, remember, we've been here for 75 years, we're still here, and again, it's up to us to determine what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it next. But the best way for us to do that is to just hold on tight to one another. So as we move into this special period where there's all kinds of celebrations and things and family and the challenges of family, I'm going home to see my family. Hold tight to one another. So go in peace, blessed be, Ashe and Namaste.
believe. Let's rock with each other at every time of need. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my song about. To take each moment, live each moment in peace eternally. Peace on earth, let it begin with me.